Welcome to Victoria Rumble Room. I'm Robin Adair, joined as always with my co-host with the most, John Jurisic. And Johnny, lots of people are talking about energy right now. Not just our personal energy, but the energy in the province, whether we have enough electricity, whether we have enough oil and gas. And apparently we need a lot more energy in general to keep the province moving. I've just heard that IT companies are getting cold feet in BC because they don't have enough power.
This whole energy thing is like a yo-yo with Premier Eby. One day, he's in favor and signs agreements with Carney, and why we're all excited. Next day, vital resources to finance economic development, business development, nada. I'm not surprised. Alberta's open for business. BC is difficult for business.
Well, and Premier Eby, I mean, he does want now power lines to the north to open mining opportunities. That's good, but we should have been talking about this all along. And the long faces from the environmental movement and a lot of NDPers about the Site C Dam. And now, thank God we've got the Site C Dam. Imagine the place we'd be right now if we didn't have that. So we have to have a longer discussion about this. And guess who we're going to have a discussion about energy with? Somebody who's really up on top of that, Johnny.
We are lucky enough to have yet again one of our most favorite and popular speakers, Dr. Andrew Weaver. And I think we better zoom him in because we got lots to talk about.
I think a top environmentalist who has a real penchant for energy topics and is very, very controversial is just the thing. Let's zoom him in, Johnny. And it's like a miracle when we finally are able to zoom in. Andrew Weaver, he finds the time for the Rumble Room, and we so appreciate it. Great to have you back.
Oh, what a pleasure. I missed you guys. It's been a long time. It's been too long, actually.
Yes, that's right.
Some of our viewers don't feel that way, but
well, of course. I'm here to help you enlighten them on some of the finer details of public policy. But as we start off, we should take a moment of silence for John, because Croatia got knocked out of the World Cup.
Oh, yeah. John would be wearing a black armband, but anyway, we don't want to get into that. We're not going to talk.
Okay.
Let's talk about some fun things. Let's talk about economic development. What could be more fun than that?
That's funny you should say that.
As you read those public opinion polls across the country, including emphatically British Columbia, Mark Carney is miles ahead in public opinion.
I love the guy.
Well, I thought you would. And obviously somebody who is actually looking at those polls and saying, if only that could be me, is David Eby. So now we have him conceding that, yes, indeed, the feds can rubber stamp and build at least the oil and gas pipeline designed for the South Coast. And in return, drum roll, BC gets billions and billions of dollars for mining expansion, a northern transmission line, support for the Massey Tunnel. So has David Eby
condos?
Has he seen condos? Has David Eby finally seen the light?
No. What David Eby is doing here, in my mind, and I suspect your reviewers, who I would probably not describe as on the left end of the political spectrum, what I believe he's doing is actually using federal money to bail out his outrageous inability to govern this province. The best example of that is the condo buyout. I mean, this is a direct consequence of his policy when he was housing minister and as premier, and also the policy of some of the minions that he surrounded himself with, like Lisa Helps, who was our mayor, where they were so into building stuff that they just basically rolled over and said, developers, what do you want to build? And the developers say, we want to build lots of high rises with no parking lots because that's really expensive. And we want to make small condos and we're going to sell them for 400 to 500,000 each. Well, and we're going to put them in downtown Victoria and downtown Vancouver. Well, guess what? The type of person who could live in 300 square feet ain't going to afford $500,000. And so they're all sitting wide empty all over the BC, Victoria, and Vancouver. And so you want to buy them, Mr. Eby. Well, no. You want to use taxpayers' money to bail out your ridiculous building policy. And that is just not right. I get, from a federal perspective, what they were trying to do, as you know, is they offered the same thing that Ontario got, which is an exemption of GST on new constructs, and that's a good policy because you're applying a GST as a tax. You don't want to tax people for doing things that you want them to do. You want home ownership. So if you're taxing that home ownership through the GST on new materials, it makes that more difficult. That's not the purpose of taxation, is to tax what you don't want and not tax what you do want, or bring in revenue. So he blew it yet again. And then he says the problem's not in, it's not going to apply to Vancouver. Well, the problem is in Vancouver. So if you're not going to apply it to Vancouver, where are you going to apply it? Comox? Like what is going on here? Are you going to go to I don't know, Prince Rupert? Like it's just ridiculous. So on the mining, I don't even know where to begin. Like I just don't even know where to begin.
You're not against mining, are you?
Oh, are you kidding? I've been a strong proponent of mining for years. We in BC should be leaders. Well, we are actually, in terms of the development and the management and the higher, because we have many companies based in BC. However, in terms of actually getting anything done, nothing gets done in this province. And again, nothing gets done. It's a direct consequence of the way this government is, and I'm take John Horgan out of this. I'm not going to blame John Horgan because I like the guy. He was really effective. I think most people would agree. This is all about David Eby again, and it's just entirely ideological. So yeah, I'm all in on mining, but we don't need the government to buy mines and spend money. We need to create an environment to let the private capital industry develop those mines in partnership with local communities. But nothing gets done here because we're just mired in navel gazing.
Okay, here I've got something that's been bothering me for a while now. So this great agreement comes out between Eby and Carney about pushing a pipeline down south to Richmond, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Why couldn't have that been done 10 frickin' years ago? We have all these arguments up top, and we're going to violate the tanker ban and fighting and what we can do it through the southern route. Why?
It's funny you should say that. I just finished writing on LinkedIn, ironically, a response to somebody who was complaining about this particular issue. And what's happened here is, again, a lot of ridiculousness. I look at so first off, the existing Trans Mountain, it's got capacity in it. Like, it's not fully used. So why are we even talking about this? Why don't you get closer to capacity, number one? Number two is, there is no northern tanker ban. Let's be clear. The tanker ban is inside between, say, Haida Gwaii and BC coast. Sure. But coming on the west side of Haida Gwaii, all the way down the coast from Alaska, all along the Alaskan archipelago, all the way down to California, is heavy oil in Alaska tankers. So that's happening. I understand and totally support the tanker ban in Hecate Strait. Hecate Strait is very shallow. It would be very dangerous. And anyone who's gone there in a boat will see what I'm talking about. So I get Hecate Strait. Further north, you've got a deep port into Prince Rupert, and you're actually the closest you can possibly get to Asia. And what I don't understand is why, if we're going to be talking pipelines, why, number one, there's three things I don't understand. Why is government talking pipelines? Why are we not having industry talking pipelines? Number one. Well, I know the answer. It's all politics.
Well, industry's nervous about what government and the First Nations are going to do.
Well, exactly. Number two is, why are we talking about freaking shipping diluted bitumen still? The jobs and the value is in the refined products. Like, we shouldn't be shipping diluted bitumen to China. We should be shipping jet fuel to China, or natural or gasoline to China. The jobs and the value is in the upgrading of it. And we don't do that. Well, we do some, and Alberta, good for them, has done a little bit more of that through the Trans Mountain, because that is where the environmental problem is. And so the environmentalists are going after this on the climate problem. I get the argument about climate. Like, if anyone gets it, it's me. But that's not what you should be focusing on. The focus should be on the diluted bitumen. And I spent years in the legislature on this, articulating why. It is a very difficult product, and it is utter madness. Utter madness. To
And
turn,
yet, it's what the world is asking for. They want our LNG, they want our oil, and
well, oil, sure, I don't have a problem with oil.
there's a huge demand for it. And what you're talking about, I'm not saying is a bad idea, but it's my understanding it makes it much more expensive for us to produce it and send it out. And we need to compete with the world. And right now, we're under a lot of pressure from our friends south of the border. We've got to find new markets. The new markets are there. They say they want the product. The Germans are saying, hat in hand, you send it to us. We'll build you more
Right.
facilities. We're even talking about coming out and building a Churchill facility with LNG. I mean, there's a huge demand both in Asia and Europe. Can we afford to sit around and try to develop new technologies and new ways of shipping this stuff and miss the opportunity to advance our economy?
So this is the question that you're asking. It's a good question. I am very keen about advancing the economy. What do you think we're getting in terms of royalties from LNG going to Asia? How about zero? Did you know that? We're getting zero in royalties. There is no royalties coming because the government literally gave away our resource to ensure they landed something. We were promised with LNG Canada that the workers would be from BC, but they weren't from BC. They were flying in en masse out from Newfoundland. We're talking, you mentioned Germany. All right, why aren't we talking about building something in Quebec? Because that's the way, if it doesn't make any sense to ship stuff from Vancouver
Well,
via the Panama.
Quebec doesn't want it.
There you go. This is what the issue is. The issue is politics. And if Mr. Carney and others really want, like, what people need to do here is to actually ask what makes sense instead of who can we bully the most. And so Carney recognizes that Eby is an absolute train wreck in terms of governance capability, and he knows that he can get whatever he wants from Eby because Eby is desperate to land anything to make him look like he actually knows what he's doing. And the question is, does he? I don't think so. And,
Well, I agree
I mean,
with you on that one. I agree. Over the summer, I have had occasion to address some of the First Nations issues in our province around land, etc. Um, Carney's promising consultation and involvement with our First Nations on all of these economic projects. Um, what is your opinion? Are we going to have support or not? Because this could all grind to a big halt if they are not part of the discussions.
well, again, Eby blew this file as well. So he blew this file with his mishandling of the implications of UNDRIP and his bringing in the Interpretation Act amendment, which I think was way too early. He thinks it's clever to put in this Interpretation Act law where every law has to be seen through the eyes of UNDRIP. Well, okay, if you're going to do that, that's great, but make sure you've already looked at these laws through the eyes of UNDRIP and suggested changes before you put in a law and you haven't like it's mind blowing that they put in a law, they must all be seen through, but they haven't actually looked at the laws to begin with. Like the Mining Act comes up and everyone goes, well, we can't stake mines anymore because that's not consistent with UNDRIP, staking claims. And so all hell breaks loose. Okay, well, that's again lands on Eby. There is very clear evidence with respect to Section 35 of the Constitution that there are title issues. That's quite separate from some of the other issues that we're getting on. The problem in BC, and I think is, we talk about having several hundred, I think it's 212 plus or minus First Nations in BC. But they're not actually First Nations. And they would say this too. What happened under the Indian Act way back in the day, and I look at the Wasanich people, which is very close to where we all live, is we have Tseo, Pocochin, Tsartlip, and Sikkim. We have four villages, apparently four nations. No, it's the same people. And the problem with the way we negotiate is we divide and conquer. We pit the Tsikam against the Tsartlip, against the Pukachan, against the Tsekam, and nothing gets done. If the government really wanted to actually move forward, the way forward, I would argue, is to work along collectively with groups so that you're actually not fighting each other. You bring the Tsimshan people together.
But you make
You
it
have,
sound like it's all exterior. There's a lot of infighting goes on amongst those groups.
of,
They
of
don't
course,
get along very well a lot of
exactly.
times. And the other thing I would add, and I totally agree with where John's
Yeah,
going with this, that the First Nations, you can't put them in a box and say this is what they think or that is what they think.
exactly,
For
exactly.
example, with the routes for the pipeline, the
Right.
vast majority of those routes they were endorsed by the First Nations along
I
those
know,
routes
yeah.
because they saw economic opportunity for their people, they saw employment, they saw ongoing revenue. And I think that they feel the same way about these new projects for the most part. But there are these ad hoc groups that call themselves representatives of BC First Nations, the coastal First Nations, and all this stuff. And who are they? And they go on the CBC and they say this isn't what First Nations want or this isn't what we want. And they are given the credence of being elected as at the heads to represent all First Nations in the province, and it's not true.
So it's like I don't like to speak on behalf of First Nations. What I can say is that I look at different nations have taken different perspectives. I look at Beecher Bay. So Russ Chips, I know the chief very well, met with him many times. He took a different perspective with Trans Mountain. He took a perspective that okay, we're a small nation on the southern part of Vancouver Island. Let's focus on marine spill response. So he has got we worked with West WCRC and has ships out in the Beecher Bay docks working to ensure spill response if it happens is set for. Okay, that's a great approach. I think that's quite innovative what he thought through. The problem here is there really is no strategy about it from anyone. We're just like the rhetoric about the pipeline is just it's shallow. It's all political right now. And the reason why I say that is we still have got capacity in Trans Mountain.
But
And
there is going to
secondly,
be a new pipeline. We need a new pipeline. If for no
do
other
we
reason, Andrew,
do
I
we
think we do because of optics, political optics, pressure in the country. People are not out massively supporting Carney because of what he's promising. They are supporting him because of what they expect him to do. And if at the end of the day he did what you're suggesting and said, "Oh, we already have enough capacity with the pipelines we have,"
No, I didn't say that.
well, that's sort of what I thought you were intimating. I think that
No.
the public wouldn't stand for it. Carney
Well,
needs to show action on the things that he's promising.
what the public won't stand for is a true accounting of what's going on. And this is where it's all about communication. We look at what Trans Mountain has done, how much that costs. What are we at? 15 billion now? It's like what, three times or four times what it was promised at. And who pays for it? The taxpayer through debt. Where's the public money here? And
But it
why
wasn't
would
originally going to be the taxpayer. The private sector tried to build it and didn't get the proper political support and had to back out.
actually that's not what happened? And I can tell you what happened because I was involved in that whole process. If you actually go and look at the documents submitted to the National Research Board on by Kinder Morgan, the economics of that pipeline was predicated on $150 a barrel of oil. That was the economics. And it was designed to feed the California refineries to begin with, where they have heavy oil capacity. That is what it was designed for. But then they discovered back in shale, and there was no need to feed the California refineries with crude or diluted bitumen from Alberta. So the economic case for Kinder Morgan started to fall through the floor. And because of the rhetoric and politics of all of this, Canada stepped in and Trudeau and bought them out and has lost their shirt in doing so. It's the same with LNG Canada. It's egregious that British Columbia is getting $0 in royalties. Zero in royalties. It's egregious that we exempted steel tax and we ensured that everything was built offshore There were no jobs in that construction onshore. It was offshore, and it was all ported in here. We exempted them on the deep well credits, which they have so many tax credits that will play in the future. We exempted them on construction credits. We have promised them 5 cents, under 5 cents a kilowatt hour electricity in perpetuity. When to deliver into that, we have to build Site C, which costs 15 cents a kilowatt hour. The taxpayer, the ratepayer, is subsidizing LNG Canada to the tune of 10 cents for every kilowatt hour. I'm a huge fan of the free market, Robin. I'm a big fan of the free market. I do not like corporate subsidy and corporate welfare. And this is the bullshit we have in Canada, is that we have shallow arguments demanding corporate welfare. And when people challenge the arguments that I'm making with shallowness, like, we need a pipeline. All right, where's your economic case other than rhetoric? And I challenge you to give me.
And you were a politician once, and you know if you start making a bunch of promises and don't fulfill them, you're shown the door.
No, so Robin, I was a politician who didn't give a shit if I was shown the door, because we need politicians who know what is right, and we need transparency, authenticity, and honesty in politics. That is what is missing. And you might think I'm naive, but you got the straight goods from me when I was down in the legislature, and everybody knows that. You did not get bullshit from me, and you're not getting it now. Andrew, I put the facts on the table, and I let people see the facts. Sometimes people don't like facts because facts can be inconvenient.
I think that we need to get you wound up a little bit.
Come on, let's go.
Let's talk about LNG.
Let's get some noisy going. Should we get some more noisy in the background?
No. Let's talk about LNG. You brought it up. I know it's a favorite topic of yours. Apparently, Mark Carney is saying that a third of the new economic projects approved for Canada are in BC, right here in our beautiful province, including massive expansion in LNG projects for export. What do you think of this?
So the LNG is, again, ours is literally some of the most expensive LNG in the world. Again, this is the government providing corporate welfare. We have Australia shutting down LNG capacity because there's too much there. And we're not, the LNG we're shipping now is also not even BC LNG. It's from Alberta. It's conventional gas from Alberta. It's too expensive. The market doesn't work. And so we have to subsidize. If there is, this is what really drives me crazy, is we have these free enterprise people who claim to be free enterprise until it is the thing they want, and then they want government handout. That's what I think about LNG. I'm not if we would subsidize the mining sector to the tune of what we're subsidizing the oil and gas sector, can you imagine what's going on? But we're not. If we subsidize the forestry sector, like we're subsidizing LNG, but we don't. If we subsidize the tech center, like we do LNG, we don't. Can you imagine where our economy goes? No, it's because we have very, very slick, efficient lobbyists in the oil and gas sector who know what they're doing. And I saw it firsthand. They come in and they are slick, man. They come in and tell you, we're going to give you wealth and prosperity. And when you're like half the people down there, think, oh, that's great. Let's bring it on. I want LNG. They don't think so they start trumpeting this. We're going to do it. And then the oil and gas guys go, yeah, we got them. They've spoken publicly. So now we got them by the short and curlies. Now we're going to say, well, we can't do it unless you give us this and this and this and this and this. And so meanwhile, these politicians are way out there promising $1 trillion and unicorns in our backyard, and you, Robin, get a Maserati in yours, and they can't deliver. So they give away. We should have had 5 LNG plants by 2020. Remember that? Well, it's 2026, and we have one sort of. It's 2 trains, not even the 4 trains. So again, we should stop having these shallow discussions. Why?
I think it's a reasonable discussion. I think this is a discussion that's going on right across the country.
I agree with you. I'm pointing out that the discussion is shallow.
Well,
it needs to put the numbers on the table.
I do feel a little bit like I'm talking to Don Quixote waving at the windmill.
No.
The country wants what Mr. Carney is talking about. He's had the highest approval ratings, I believe, of any prime minister in Canadian history. And if he doesn't deliver, you keep hearing this. People say, well, I like what Carney's saying. I need to see that he actually acts. And people are very worried about what's going south of the line. But I'm going to just shift it over for a second, Andrew, because I got to let you catch your breath. We'll talk about something else just for a moment that's still related.
Oh, what's that?
Mr. Eby may not be here indefinitely. There may be some changes in the leadership in the NDP. That's being talked about, I understand, behind closed doors. But aside from that, we have Carrie Lynn Finlay now, the leader of the Conservative Party. And you better believe if the Conservatives get in, a lot of things that are being opposed on a political level, let's say in BC, will be reassessed. I can imagine you're not a fan of that.
So I'll be straight up honest. I joined the BC Conservative Party and voted for Peter Millibar because I think Peter Millibar would have been a good premier. He's a bright, intelligent man who understands the issues, spends his time researching them before spouting nonsense into the public realm. And frankly, I don't think Carrie Lynn Finlay is fit to be premier. What she did to him in the debate, in debates, and talking about his partner, was frankly, I think, actionable, but at minimum, completely offensive, and just has no business in political discourse. So Carrie Lynn Finlay cannot win the next election. You're here to hear Robin first. There's no way. She cannot win South Island and Vancouver. She just cannot, because her views are simply way too wacky. They're further right of Attila the Hun. So I mean, she's still at controversy right now, and from elections stuff that she has to deal with. There's controversy from her husband's background. I mean, there's controversy surrounding her, and it's just a remarkable opportunity for a new centrist party to emerge, and that's what I think we're going to see happen. If Eby remains as leader of the NDP, and Carrie Lynn Finlay remains as leader of the Conservatives, I cannot see at least about half of the Conservative MLAs staying there. I cannot see that. They cannot. How could someone like Peter Millibar work in the racist kind of atmosphere that's being created in that whole debate? I don't know. So I wouldn't be surprised to see if the next government is a minority government where the center holds the balance of power, and that center is more along the lines of Carney thinking, more liberal, more centrist liberal.
Does that party exist right now? Or does it have to form itself?
Well, there's three ways it could. There's three ways. Karen Kilpatrick tried to start Centre BC, but that got off to a really rough start. And infighting, it just kind of seems to me that's kind of exploded. I've quit the BC Conservatives, by the way, after Carrie Lynn Finlay came in. Let's close that loop.
And then a new loop being created on the show. That's
no. And then, but there's also who knows? BC United, BC Liberal still exists. It's just kind of on paper. Some groups could resurrect that, or you could get a group creating a new whole.
Well, there was some thought that if Carolyn Elliott had won, then indeed the old BC Liberals would basically have been back in the driver's seat. She had a lot of very prominent BC Liberals supporting her directly and campaigning for her. But the party didn't go that way.
Well, both a lot of the campaigns made mistakes by bringing out people from Alberta, Ontario, Ottawa, to help them out, and they brought with them the culture of the places they're used to, and that doesn't work in BC. So if they continue down that path, I'm afraid there's no hope. People want I mean, as I said, I voted for Peter Millibar. I didn't even have Carrie Lynn Finlay on my ballot. I didn't go down to number 5. I refused to have her on my ballot.
Yet she won on every ballot. I mean, who was voting?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
she didn't get my vote towards the end because my vote was gone into the Netherlands at some point.
Yeah.
But
I want to have a strategic discussion briefly with you, okay? Because I get involved with politicians and their social media campaigns, and especially new politicians coming up for the first time, and all of them do want to have a comprehensive policy discussion. They want to have in-depth discussions. They want to talk about facts. And I then alert them to the communication reality of today's political world. Andrew, what you're asking for can't happen in today's world. Well, because we talk in clips. That's how we talk to each other.
Leadership doesn't follow. Leadership leads. And that is something I have always believed in. when I started out in this field of climate back in like what 20 years ago, Weaver, you can't do this, and I did it. Weaver, you can't do that, and I did it. Oh, Weaver, you can't. You're asking to put weather stations on all the schools in Vancouver. We'll give you 4 weather stations because we don't believe you can do it. No, I put 166 up. You don't. When there's a will, there's a way, and leadership is about not following, it's about leading. So if you want, and Carney showed exactly what I mean there. Carney won the last election through leadership, not through Pierre Poilievre sound bites. Everyone's so sick of the verb the noun kind of nonsense we got from Poilievre. Kirli Finlay is all about the soundbite. What BC wants is leadership that's actually substantive. We had that. We had Joe Clark. We had Jean Chrétien. We had Brian Mulroney, we had Kim Campbell. We've had lots of people who, I mean, not all of them lasted a long time.
Well, Kim Campbell.
Well, she was the sacrificial lamb, right?
She was a sacrificial lamb for Brian Mulroney.
I know, and just like John Turner,
with 2 seats across the whole country.
Well, kind of like John Turner too. But they were. This is when the word honor, which I think is a really important word, used to actually have some meaning in terms of political discourse. I don't see honor anymore. I see gutter. It should be not the honorable minister, the gutter minister, right? This is where they're all in the gutter with their discourse. It's sound bites written by 20-something-year-olds who actually don't know the issues, or it's rage farming. There's nothing in between. What about a substantive discourse? Which is why Carney, I like him because I trust him. I know where he's coming from. Like the guy is genius. Look at the EV. He got rid of the EV ban. The environmentalists are freaking out. I'm going, oh, no, I get where he's coming from. I get the lobbying he's getting. I know exactly what he's doing. And then he went all in on the end-to-end construction of EVs, including the manufacture of EVs, including from the supply chain of critical minerals through the production of batteries into the production of automobiles, through to the marketing of that. And he did that through beautiful negotiations with China, where he brought in 50,000 cheap Chinese vehicles, and we get to sell our canola. Like this is
Andrew,
what we need.
Is there a Carney in BC, and is that man named Weaver?
Ha ha ha. Oh, can I do this again? No, I don't. I took a political party once before. That was an absolute, gong show. And we held balanced power 4 years. Like I put my heart and soul. That's another thing, right? People say, "Oh, Weaver, you can't do it." Oh, Weaver, you're running with the Greens. All the pundits would say it's impossible for him to get elected in Oak Bay because they only got 8% of the vote last time. All right, whatever, you're wrong. And then, he's running for government.
Oh, you won for the same reason that Elizabeth May wins every time. It was because of your profile and personality in the community. Well known, respected as an environmentalist. It was more than the Green Party. It was Andrew Weaver's Green Party. And once Andrew Weaver stepped out of the Green Party, it really kind of lost its steam. And I think that's a compliment to you, Andrew. And that's what this show's all about. It's complimenting.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, this is fascinating because you have. Andrew,
Please try to argue with that, Andrew. Try to argue.
I am going to argue. I don't think you're complimenting me at all, Robin. I think you're baiting me.
You're just waiting for me to ask that magic journalism question, Andrew. Why are you so wonderful? But that's for another show. We're out of time. We're out of time, Johnny.
How come journalists don't ask that question?
Not enough. We don't ask it enough.
You don't. You come in with hard questions, not like, so what did you have for breakfast today?
I bet I'm the first journalist who compared you to Don Quixote. I think we've moved to some new ground here. Anyway, John,
Don Quixote.
We're going to have you on again in the fall. Way
too
much stuff is going on.
Absolutely.
Why don't you have me on with the debate with maybe a former deputy minister or something like that?
Oh well, we've been challenged for debates. No,
I don't do debates.
We're the debaters.
Yeah, no. I was going to say that's one thing. People who you want to debate climate science. My whole background is climate science. I'm not going to debate climate science with anybody who's kind of thinks that contrails is what's going on right now in geoengineering. They don't understand stratospheric cooling and moisture in jet fuel, but never mind.
What I understand is a big personality, and you've got one. Andrew Weaver, I want to thank you very much for being on the show. And next time we have you, as we've done this time, we will rumble on.
Please do. And I'll wear something equally provocative as my Alberian noisy stuff.
Excellent. Go England.
Look that up.
And that's it.
Good. Sorry about Croatia. Thanks again. Okay.